NBA Hall of Famer and Trailblazers legend Bill Walton dies at 71 after prolonged fight with cancer. O'Day's column fulfills a promise I made to Bill Walton. Not that we were buddies or anything, or that I have any extensive insights into his extraordinary life, but a promise is a promise. Walton, in the pantheon of great basketball players, college and pro, died on Memorial Day of cancer. In January 2023, I'd been writing a number of columns on the exploits of Gonzaga's All-America big man Drew Timm. Timm was such a charismatic and joyful player, endlessly creative in the lane and on the baseline, and such a sensational teammate and representative of the university, it seemed that almost every game demanded praise of his work. But you can't beat the same drum at the same tempo all season, so I wanted to find somebody else to comment on Timm. In some specific ways, in a somewhat smaller font, Timm's play was reminiscent of Walton's at UCLA in the early 1970s. I got some contact info from a media friend and took a shot with a text to Walton, asking if he could spare a few minutes of his valuable time to talk about Timm. He got right back to me and went on for well over half an hour in one of the most memorable, wild and wide-ranging interviews ever. "I love Drew Timm," Walton said. "He's an exuberant force of nature like few others. He plays with boundless enthusiasm, he's got an incredible skill level, he's got a mind that separates him from the crowd. He has the creativity of a genius and he has a very vivid imagination. And he's super fun. What's not to love?" I didn't tell him at the time because when a source starts talking like this, you're a fool to slow him down, but his description of Timm sounded to me a lot like a description of Walton himself. His own exuberant commentary, hyperbole, and non-sequiturs polarized some basketball broadcast viewers. What critics forgot was that you can't take poets or philosophers literally. Some felt he wasn't talking enough about the basketball game in front of him. I think they failed to see that he was talking, in a larger sense, about humanity and high aspirations and art, the things that, he obviously believed, were exemplified when the game of basketball was at its best. A couple times during the interview, I had to reel him back for explanations. Our job as human beings is to try to make other people's lives better. Drew Timm has made my life better. Okay, what? He explained that he could sense Timm's glorious dreams by watching him play. Huh. Can't you? He asked. He's very much like the Spokane Falls, he just keeps coming. Even the hardened lava can't stop him or make him change directions. It's fabulous. Bill Walton, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said, was truly one of a kind. Walton died Monday at the age of 71 after a prolonged fight with cancer, the league announced on behalf of his family. He was the NBA's MVP in the 1977-78 season, the league's sixth man of the year in 1985-86, and a member of the league's 50th anniversary and 75th anniversary teams. That followed a college career in which he blossomed while playing under coach John Wooden at UCLA, becoming a three-time National Player of the Year. I am sad today hearing that my comrade and one of the sports world's most beloved champions and characters has passed. Julius Dr. J. Irving, a fellow Hall of Famer, wrote on social media, "Bill Walton enjoyed life in every way. To compete against him and to work with him was a blessing in my life." Tributes immediately began pouring in, and the NBA was planning a moment of silence to commemorate Walton's life before Game 4 of the Boston-Indiana matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals on Monday night. Walton, who entered the Hall of Fame in 1993, was one of the game's most celebrated figures. His NBA career, disrupted by chronic foot injuries, lasted only 468 games combined with the Portland Trail Blazers, the San Diego Los Angeles Clippers, and the Boston Celtics. He averaged 13.3 points and 10.5 rebounds in those games, neither of those numbers exactly record-setting. Still, his impact on the game was massive. It's a legend lost when you talk about basketball and what he brought to the media side. Dallas Mavericks coach Jason Kidd said, "As an ex-player, to be able to be successful not just on the court but also on TV." Walton's most famous game was the 1973 NCAA title game, UCLA against Memphis, in which he shot 21 for 22 from the field and led the Bruins to another national championship. One of my guards said, "Let's try something else." Wooden told the Associated Press in 2008 for a 35th anniversary retrospective on that game. Wooden's response during that timeout: "Why? If it ain't broke, don't fix it." They kept giving the ball to Walton, and he kept delivering in a performance for the ages. It's very hard to put into words what he has meant to UCLA's program, as well as his tremendous impact on college basketball, UCLA coach Mick Cronin said Monday. Beyond his remarkable accomplishments as a player, it's his relentless energy, enthusiasm for the game, and unwavering candor that have been the hallmarks of his larger-than-life personality. It's hard to imagine a season in Pauley Pavilion without him. When Walton retired from the NBA, he turned to broadcasting, something he never thought he could be good at, and an avenue he sometimes wondered would be possible for him, because he had a pronounced stutter at times in his life. Turns out, he was excellent at that, too. Walton was an Emmy winner, eventually was named one of the top 50 sports broadcasters of all time by the American Sportscasters Association, and even appeared on the New York Times bestseller list for his memoir, Back from the Dead. It told the story of a debilitating back injury suffered in 2008, one that left him considering taking his own life because of the constant pain, and how he spent years recovering. "I lived most of my life by myself. But as soon as I got on the court, I was fine," Walton told the Oregonian newspaper for a story published in 2017. "But in life, being so self-conscious, red hair, big nose, freckles and goofy, nerdy-looking face, and can't talk at all. I was incredibly shy and never said a word. Then, when I was 28, I learned how to speak. It's become my greatest accomplishment of my life and everybody else's biggest nightmare." The last part of that was just Walton hyperbole. He was known for his on-air tangents and sometimes appeared on air in Grateful Dead t-shirts. Walton was a huge fan of the band and referenced it often, even sometimes recording satellite radio specials celebrating what it meant to be a Deadhead. And the Pac-12 conference, which has basically evaporated in many ways now because of college realignment, was another of his many loves. He always referred to it as the Conference of Champions and sang its praises all the way to the end. "It doesn't get any better than this," he once said on a broadcast, tie-dyed t-shirt on, a Hawaiian lei around his neck. Walton was involved in the broadcasts of college and NBA games for CBS, NBC, and ABC ESPN in his career, along with stints working for the Clippers and Sacramento Kings as an analyst. He returned to ESPN and the Pac-12 network, further touting the roots of his league in 2012. Bill Walton was a legendary player and a singular personality who genuinely cherished every experience throughout the journey of his extraordinary life, ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro said. Bill often described himself as the luckiest guy in the world, but anyone who had the opportunity to interact with Bill was the lucky one. He was a truly special, giving person who always made time for others. Bill's one-of-a-kind spirit captivated and inspired audiences during his second career as a successful broadcaster. But Walton will always be synonymous with UCLA's dominance. He enrolled at the school in 1970 before freshmen could play on the varsity team. Once he could play for Wooden, the Bruins were unbeatable for more than 2 years. Walton's UCLA teams won their first 73 games, the bulk of the Bruins' extraordinary 88-game winning streak. It was snapped against Notre Dame in 1974, a 7-1-7-0 loss in which Walton shot 12 for 14 from the field.